Hey, welcome back, everyone. I think every little girl I know, including myself, loves horses. And I was never in a place to actually ride horses, but as soon as I could pick up a pencil, horses were the first animals I ever sketched. I fell in love with their eyes and their sleek, muscular bodies. I just love them. They're beautiful, beautiful creation that we have. So I am Marcia Sivek, and this is BeProvided Conservation Radio. If you cannot tell, today's show is about horses, specifically horses that are rescued and rehabilitated, with Julia Hyde, founder of Canham Farm Horse Rescue and Rehabilitation Center. And I also speak with her senior volunteer and outreach coordinator, Jackie Foley. So Julia started Canham Farm Horse Rescue and Rehabilitation about 5 years ago when she realized horses really needed her help. So in today's show, we talk about how horses come into their care. Julia and Jackie share stories on how domesticated horses are cared for and their dedication to getting them back to health and eventually finding them a new home. Julia also shares how our iconic wild horses in the American West are being rounded up by the Bureau of Land Management using helicopters. We learn why these roundups are not good for the horses. And, it's causing these beautiful symbols of freedom to quickly diminish from our lands, which is really sad. I learned so much from this interview, which makes me want to learn more. If you know someone working to help save our wild horses and would want to share their experience with my audience, please contact me through my website at www.beprovided.com. So enjoy today's conversation. I start by asking my guests to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about how they were inspired to dedicate their time to horse rescue.
So my name is Julia Hyde. I found the rescue about 5 years ago after a hoarding case. So the lady was hoarding horses. It's a bit like normal cat hoarding or whatever. And the horses are very skinny. One particular horse caught my eye, and I said, look, can you let me perhaps take this horse? And she said no, and I said, okay, if I pay you, will you let me take this horse? And she said, yes, okay. So that was my first horse, and he was my first one as a non-profit, so as a registered non-profit. So that's how it got started, and then it just went on from there. And just horses I get calls for people about their horses, or I get reports of a neglected horse or whatever, or animal control. Not so much here, but over in San Martin and places like that. And it just spiraled, and this is here where we are today.
So have you always been in love with horses, obviously?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, as a little girl?
Yeah. So we had, my father was into horses too, although he was like the racing. He'd go to the bookies and what have you. But we did have a pony when we were young. I'd say to my dad, oh, can I ride the pony? I'm 6, 7 years old. And he'd say to me, yeah, but if you fall off, you're walking home. And I walked home a lot.
Yeah, I guess you have to learn how to fall off a horse and ride a horse too at the same time. So
yeah.
Thank you for getting us started.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, and we're here with Jackie Foley as well. So can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do here at the center as well?
Sure. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, my name is Jackie Foley, and I've been here at the rescue right near the beginning of COVID. So if there's any silver lining to that, COVID, some things changed in my life. I had the opportunity to find the rescue, been helping out ever since. And I really enjoy, of course, being up here with the horses. I think they give me more than I give them. And it was a great time during COVID to be here. It was a safe place. Yeah. Still is a safe place, but healthy place to be. So I really enjoy it. And I grew up with horses. Actually, I grew up here on Canham Road, coincidentally.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And so I've always been into horses, and just fortunate to find Canham Rescue.
Oh, that's amazing. What a nice find during COVID. And we have a horse behind us who's snorting in agreement, I think.
Yes, that's Clara. She's 2 years old, and she was a seizure from San Martin.
Oh, okay. Beautiful horse.
Yeah, hadn't been touched when she came, but she's fine now.
Oh, good. So tell us a little bit about some of the horses here and how many you have here at the rescue center, and then we'll get into maybe how do they come into your care.
Yeah, sure. Right now, we actually have 9. We are 1 over maximum, but we have a horse that we've taken for respite care, not for the horse, but for the horse's owner, because she's had a lot of surgery and can't. So we don't really count her. So rescue horses, we have 8. 8 rescue horses. 2 wild horses that came to us as older wild horses. So we weren't starting from a foal or even 1 or 2 years old. We're starting from 10, 11-year-old. We don't know how old they are. Definitely over 10, which is hard because they're used to being in the wild, and it's a big adjustment. No human contact ever. Wow. It's been a really nice journey, but it's been a long journey. It takes as long as it takes. And that's the philosophy here. We don't rush any of the horses. And we also have Sunset, who you just saw. He was the first one I told you about earlier.
Okay.
And
he's super healthy.
I keep him. I can. He's just a symbol, isn't he?
Yes,
he's like a mascot.
Ambassador he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's
and
beautiful.
then over in the corner there is Lola, and she was an owner relinquished. She was starving. They weren't feeding her. And what they were feeding her, she couldn't even eat anyway because she was an older and again had teeth. So it just went downhill and downhill. And I got a call from someone to say, can you please take this horse? So that's how we ended up with Lola. And we use the UC Davis method of refeeding. So, because you can't dump a load of food into them.
And hope they eat.
Yeah, it has to be a slow process. And we use that with her. And now she gets ridden. She's just great.
Yep.
She was on the trails.
She's wonderful.
Jackie rides her.
Wonderful trail horse.
Yeah,
I like her.
Yeah, I think you said you have an attachment to Lola, right?
A little bit,
Jackie?
yeah. A little attached to her. I do, yeah.
So Jackie's how old? Lola's how old?
She's in her 20s.
In her 20s, okay.
So she's not old like Blue.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's 33. And then we have, along with Sunset, Zizi. She, again, was a part of a big seizure of horses over the hill. And they found her with a ladder stuck on her head.
Oh, my gosh.
And she was pregnant. And she... goodness
That's
only
so
knows
sad.
how long she'd had this ladder on her head. We have no idea.
Oh my
but
goodness.
she did. They got it off and took her here, hence the reason she's called Zizi. We've been rehabbing her since she's been here, and it's taken a long time because anything around her face, any sudden movements have been she's just totally scared.
Aww.
But we're getting there. You saw her there, trying to get into Sunset Scared. Great. There's
no shyness going on there.
No shyness there, no fear anymore. And that's what we want.
Yeah.
And then Maya, she's also a Mustang, but she came to us at 5 months old.
Oh, wow.
She's young to be separated from her parents. It just so happened. We're working with her. She's only 4, so we're just starting her in the saddle to get her adoptable and be safe.
Yeah.
Which is what we want them to do. We want them to be safe.
So, yes.
Relatively. They're never really safe horses.
Be able to rehome them and to get them comfortable.
I don't like to let them go, or we don't like to let them go to a home unless we're comfortable that they're going to be solid and they've got a certain amount of training under their belt.
Yeah, there's so many things that you said that I have questions on. Hopefully I can unpack all of this. So I know we didn't go through all the horses yet, and I will show pictures of the horses. I believe Jackie sent me some pictures, and I'll have those in the show notes, and people can visit canhamfarm.com is your website.
Yeah, canhamfarm.com, yeah.
So you mentioned, so many things, like we can get into horses and talk about the age. You mentioned like the teeth were worn and you have to refeed them a certain way. So that brings up, well, how long can horses live? And how long is their lifespan?
Well, there are horses that are in their 40s around the world, not necessarily here, and there is, I think, I can't remember what the age of the oldest horse is, way up there, but typical is going to be like 25 to 25 and 30, depending on whether they have any illnesses or whether they got, like humans, like us, they get ill and...
Or the abuse that you're talking about,
yeah,
and the neglect.
It takes its toll, and so some die younger, but if you're looking at average ages like you would with humans, then yeah, it's about 20, 25.
Okay. Wild horses the same, or are they fair?
Wild horses out in the wild do not live as long.
Okay, yeah, they have a little more to deal with, I'm sure.
Yeah, but wild horses that have been, I don't hate to say domesticated, but domesticated is the only one. They will typically be the same as the domestic horses after a while, because they're getting good nutrition, they're getting
pet care.
That said, in the wild, they are getting good nutrition out there too. They're eating grass, and that's what they eat. And so yeah.
Interesting. To go into some of the cases that you deal with that are challenging, with some of the seizure cases you were talking about for the abuse, is that common, or is it? I mean, that's got to be really hard and difficult to see and work with. And
it is. Yes, it is actually quite common. Perhaps not in this area, in the Santa Cruz area, although there have been cases. It's more neglect here, and neglect can mean the person's ill themselves and they can't do it, or they're deliberately because they just don't want anything to do with horses. So it spans a lot. Interestingly enough, the most difficult and most interesting horse was a horse named Betty.
I like that name.
I know, yeah. And she was her owner called me, and he was having ill health.
Okay.
He felt that he just couldn't manage her anymore. And we had space at the time, and I said, you know what, it's fine. We'll come and take her, and she'll have a good life, or whatever. Yeah. I don't really know anything about dancing horses. They're trained to dance, not like dressage.
Yeah.
So they're trained in a very aggressive way.
Yeah, I've seen some of that, or I've seen like the Tennessee Walker. That's a little different.
Yeah, it's
thing,
different,
isn't it?
but that's just as bad.
Yeah.
So anyways, so we arranged a time that we would go and collect Betty. All right. It was up on Summit Road. I think of anything of it. Summit Road, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Summit Road. I have never been so far up Summit Road. We were in Loma Prieta. We got that far. Yeah. And then when we arrived at his house or his property, there's a group of young men with guns.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we're like, okay. So I thought, I had two people with me to help, and I said, okay, play this cool. We're coming to do something. So we just walked past and smiled, and and anyway, the gentleman who actually owned Betty, he came down because Betty was right up on a hill. So he came down and was going to drive us up in his truck, which he did. We all got into the truck along with his dog, who took a liking to me and was licking me all over the face. The car on the side I was sitting on, unbeknownst to me when I got in, didn't shut. So I had to hold it with a piece of string whilst there was a drop down the other side.
Oh my gosh, it
was interesting. Anyway, we get up to Betty, and she's living in terrible conditions. Yeah, it was terrible. And of course, the only thing I could do is walk her back down. Now, bearing in mind, this is like 1.5 miles.
Yeah.
A horse that didn't walk well with a human, she was all over the place because she'd not been trained to actually be led. And then when we actually get back down again, these guys with the guns clapped.
Really?
And they said, we're so glad you've come to take her.
Oh.
And it turned out they were going hunting.
You don't know what's going on up there.
So that's the... I think that's the most interesting one. Definitely.
I bet.
I know, yeah.
It has to be a little scary going into some of these situations. Because
you're not animal control. You got no sort of backup. It worked out okay, and he was a nice guy, and these other guys clearly were too. So, yeah, and she has since got adopted. So that was just the best thing.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. That's another question of mine. Since they have gone through so much trouble and it takes so much time to rehab them, how do you release them to a home? You must do some serious vetting, I would think, for some of these homes. Make sure.
Yeah, we have a litany of questions, but we visit the property.
Oh, you do? Good. Yeah.
They have to come here 3 times to be with the horse, and we watch them interact with the horse. They have to agree, although it's hard for us to police this, but they have to agree to do what similar or the same training that we've done and ride in the same way, because consistency is a big thing with horses. Ultimately, later on down the line, if they want to change the way they do something, like maybe picking up their feet or something like that to clean them, there's different ways of doing it. None of them are right or wrong. We just do it a certain way here. And then we have them sign a contract that ties them in knots, basically.
Kind of
They're not allowed
binding,
to sell the horse without our permission. They're not allowed to race, breed. There's all this stuff that we stipulate in there. And frankly, most people are willing to do that, sign that, because that's how they're going to treat the horse anyway. We get the odd one or two, I'm not signing that. And it's, you know what, good, because she's not going anywhere then.
Right, so you won't release them if they don't sign.
And we always give 60 days for them to come back if it's not working out. And then after 60 days, they can still come back if we have space, but we don't give them the adoption fee money back at that point.
Yeah.
And that's how we work it.
Do you ever go visit the horses that see how they're doing?
You know, and they're supposed to send us photographs, and most of them do, of the ones that have been adopted, and videos and things like that. They're pretty good all in all, the ones. We've only really had one that we've had an issue with, but because we also in our contract have the right to go and confiscate the horse too. But I have never had to do that. We've had a couple of horses have come back, but nothing major. It's just, it just didn't work out.
Yeah,
So.
well, I assume voicing her opinion. They have various personalities, and I'm sure they get used to working with you or Jackie or your volunteers here. And to go into a new home, it might take a little bit.
Well, and we're consistent across the board.
Yeah.
So it's every horse is treated the same way. Obviously, they have their own personalities, and some horses you may be different with others, but fundamentally, it's a bit like humans. You create a habit, and they adhere to that habit. Yeah.
And then you have Lola, who is Jackie's heart.
Yeah, it's Jackie's favorite. Yes.
I know Lola's up for adoption, right? Is that correct?
Yes, she is.
How are you going to let her go? That's got to be tough too, seeing
and
her
Clara
go.
is as well.
Yeah, it'll be hard to see any of these that do leave here.
Yeah.
It will be hard, but that's the goal, to see them go to a good home.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
We can't, that's the mission. We can't keep them. Otherwise, what's the point? We can't help any others then, because we don't have room. So it's like, they need, even though they get a lot of attention here, they need more attention. They need that one-on-one attention with the person who's looking after them on a daily basis.
That brings up another question. I know you said it varies on time to get them used to humans, like you get the wild Mustangs, and how long typically does it take for, I know like Jackie was telling me there's a process, you have to get them used to even seeing the harness and then wearing the harness, and then it's a step by step.
I mean, even, first of all, you even have to get them used to you, because horses are like a pressure and release. Mm-hmm. Just by walking up to a horse, you're putting pressure on that horse. They don't want pressure, they want release. So for a human to go up to a wild horse, they're terrified.
Yeah, you just can't run up to them.
And then you can't, because they think they don't really have two sides of the brain, but they have the reactive side and the thinking side. Mm-hmm. Like, they can only use the reactive side, and the reactive side is to run or whatever, and they won't be looking at you. They're running. And they'll run over you because they're so scared.
Well, prey animals, even though they're so big.
So it takes a long time to even get to touch them.
Yeah.
Let alone anything else.
So this process could take
This has taken about a year, and we're not even there. It's a process, and I don't like to rush them. I know a lot of people will say, oh no, 60 days and it's fine, but no. I think they need to come around on their own, just build that trust. Oh, maybe they're not going to hurt me.
Go at the horse's pace and not run. Yeah. And that brings me to the question of wild horses.
Yeah, there's a little bit of controversy over, are they wild horses or are they feral horses? In so much as I say they're wild horses because they've been out there for centuries and what have you, but there is evidence also that there were horses long before.
In the beginning.
So their plight is just, and I could honestly take hours over this.
Yeah, I'd like to hear of some
absolutely
of that.
Horrific. They are rounded up this time of year, which is just after foaling season, in places over here, well, in California, Devil's Garden, over in Arizona, various places where there's wild horse herds. Bureau of Land Management actually round them up, hiring contractors to do that, and doing that you use helicopters and things to drive them into pens. Foals too, whereupon they tag them and they put them up for adoption for $1 each.
Oh my gosh.
I paid $2 for these horses, and
what happens to them if they don't
and I
get
could have had
auctioned?
25.
Yeah.
So 25 horses is almost like saying 25 fits in a truck to go over to Mexico or Canada to be slaughtered. You're buying 25 horses, it's not real. But anyway, apart from that, part of the reason that they round them up is because of the farmers. I'm talking big ag.
Yeah,
the
the
oil
big ranchers,
companies. Big ag want the land for their cows, sheep, whatever. Big oil want it because they want to put their oil pipes in and everything. There's quite a big movement, unfortunately not big enough, that actually wants to end this. It's crazy. They say they're overpopulated, but they're not. They say they're unhealthy. They're not. These guys came to me, they were fat.
These are beautiful horses.
It's very controversial.
Yeah.
There's also something called the SAFE Act, which is slaughter of animals, and a lot of these wild horses do end up there.
Such sad story.
It's because a lot of these horses have been injected, or they've taken drugs, or they've been given to them to buy by humans, and then they're selling them. They're taking them to Mexico, slaughtering them, and people are eating them. Or not in Mexico. Mexicans do not eat horse meat.
Yeah.
Just to clarify that, but the Canadians do, and so do the French, and various other countries, I'm sure. But so we're exporting as a country these animals that are, even if we do disagree with them being slaughtered and taken over there, but they're not even safe to eat for humans.
Because they're injected with so many
we give them all sorts of stuff to keep them healthy as domestic horses. And I don't know, I wouldn't want to be eating that.
No, there is no problem of overpopulation, you think? People say that about deer too. With the wolf thing, there really isn't.
There is not a problem. Naturally, being in the wild, as I said to you before, they don't live as long. And people will say they don't have natural predators. They actually do. Wolves are natural predators of horses. As we know, the wolf population is declining.
Because they're still suffering the same thing.
They're suffering the same thing.
Big ag.
But what they'll say is that we're allotted, they call them HMAs, that we're allotted so many wild horses on this particular area. And if they go over that, then they round X amount up.
Wow. And they're separating foals and mothers. And,
foals, And enough times there's a lot of deaths of horses because the foals can't keep the helicopter. You imagine a helicopter, and they hover right above them, and the foals can't keep up with the herd. Yeah. So oftentimes the foals, there's actually a video of the poor mare actually either giving birth or having a miscarriage while being run by a helicopter. So
I don't need that image in my head.
I feel really strongly about this.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to do anything about or add their voice to this, they need to be writing to their representatives and saying this is not okay.
Yeah.
And make people accountable because they're not being made accountable right now. They just do as they want. And I don't know, this may be too, you can edit this out, but big organizations like Protect the Harvest, who promote obviously the agriculture and what have you. I've researched online, and you look and see where these representatives and senators and what have you are getting their money from, funding, and it's big ag, Protect the Harvest, the oil companies.
Exactly.
So we're fighting this battle. It's like of course we don't have money to do what they can do. So
it's too bad we can't get a big enough grassroots movement or something.
And horses, you either love horses or you're indifferent. If it was dogs, it would be a totally different story.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah.
Do wild horses really compete with the grass? They probably with the grass that the cows are eating, so they could coexist
cows and horses coexist very well together.
I would think they would.
Yeah. No. It's, any pictures that you see, definitely, if not contrived, they're one in there's one that looks skinny.
Yeah.
Let's take a photograph of that one.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, oh, there's not enough water. Let's take a photograph of that one. So, yeah.
So it's nitpicked and propaganda kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is there a way that people can look up when these roundups are happening? Or
The Bureau of Land Management website has wild horse roundups on there.
Okay.
You can see when they are being. They won't let you within X amount of. If you wanted to go and observe, you have to get all sorts of permits to be.
So they don't make it easy for you to go and get the horses. Yeah.
You have to be a certain distance away, and the only way you can get them is if you have a huge camera that can zoom in. But what they can do is read about this online, and there's a lot of information online, and write to their senators, I said before, and tell them that these are American horses that we're shipping as well. Some of them are being shipped across the country.
Yeah.
It's all money.
So what experience did you guys have, both of you, with working with horses? I know you both grew up with horses and always loved horses, but this has involved kind of different training to get used to. Is it just something you learn as you go, or?
Yes, you do learn as you go.
Yeah.
And you learn from other people. It's just like an education, if you like. You learn from other people. You take what you believe in, and then you apply that, and then you disregard other stuff. I always say the best way to learn about horses is by observing them together in a herd. It can be a small herd, 3 horses, whatever. But you will see, once you start seeing their dynamics and their body language, then you can start to emulate that yourself. And that's where you start. And then as time goes on, of course, you learn to read. But you have to be open-minded. Okay. You have to try and think like a horse.
Yeah.
And not think like a human.
Again.
And we get upset, we get angry, we get emotional. So they don't have any of that. So it's hard sometimes to be a horse when you're not a horse.
Right. That takes many years.
It does.
Hanging out with them.
It does. And it's not something that happens overnight, that's for sure.
So they are herd animals. Do all these horses kind of get along as a herd once you bring them in, or is that where you see some of their temperaments differ? And
what would happen typically if we put all these horses out together, there would be scuffles between
because they try to get a hierarchy.
They're trying to say, okay, I'm the boss. No, I'm the boss.
Yeah.
I'm the boss. But ultimately, they work it out very quickly.
Okay.
It's normally within 5 minutes.
We could learn from horses for sure.
From
animals in general.
We can in many ways. And back to your question, I think you hit the nail on the head with that it's different. I think it's different where you are anywhere around horses. And that was a big part of my education up here is I was also for many years, a recreational rider. And she's heard me say that, Julia has. And that I've learned so much about when I'm riding, how I'm communicating or not communicating with a horse, or these little things that I would have never thought of that are I've had a lot of aha moments that Julia and I have talked about and I've experienced with the horses, and
So you have seen that experience play out. That's great.
And I think on the ground as a whole, your progress has been quite amazing over the.
Yeah, it's things that I would have never thought of, and how the horses perceive me, stuff I have never, and probably just took it for granted. And so you learn so much that way, and you learn to appreciate the horses with the different backgrounds coming from a different perspective. So you have to approach them for a little bit different and learn that, especially at a rescue with the different horses.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes your day-to-day not boring, I'm sure, with everything.
It's not boring.
It's not.
So I want to just quickly ask, I'm sure you have some fun stories, but what's one of your favorite success stories? Do each of you have a favorite success story that you've seen go through here? That was like
I
challenge.
Have to say, Lulu the super pony. We used to call it.
I like that.
And this was before your time. But Lulu was a little pinto, they have some different colours, she was white and a bit like this. She came to us. She was an owner relinquished that came to us. She was just the funniest little thing, but she was very feisty.
Yeah.
So she had this sort of little personality that was quite. But because of that, of course, that people this is why she was relinquished. So we worked with her quite a lot. We'd ride her. She's like a little sewing machine. You'd ride her, and literally her little legs were going. And she could jump. She could do all sorts of things. And on the ground, she got to a point where she was just so great. And then one day, I get a call from this lady who was looking for a horse, had seen Lulu, and was looking for a horse for her 2 children, 2 girls. And she said, could we come out and see Lulu? And I said, yes, of course. They came out. Did everything. So they came out 3 times. The kids rode her. It was just like a match in heaven.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they adopted her. They live in Brentwood. Yeah, she was a challenging horse, but she was a pony, but she was a good pony for these girls.
Yeah, you had to find the right personality for
exactly,
her. Yeah.
and for the with the mother too. So I think that, to me, Lulu always has this little special. Yeah, but I know she's in a safe place. I know she's good. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite or a success story that you've seen go through?
Mine is probably shorter term. I think my favorite that comes to the forefront usually is Cleo, is one of the wild horses, and just seeing her progress and transition, and just hanging out with her and see her change and accept us, my standing next to her, and the progress of volunteers working with her, and just from standing next to her and then being able to touch her, and just seeing that transition. And now she's haltered, she's leading, she's just amazing. So that whole trust, it taught me a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll always have that, and I really appreciate it. So that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Learn for both humans and Cleo, and you and Cleo. Yeah.
It's a shame humans can't be like that.
I know. We just need to slow down a little bit, I think.
Well, that's the thing. Time. They don't have no concept of time. And I'll be late for things, and people will say, oh, you're late again. And I'm like, I'm on horse time, which is, there is no time. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what you're going to need to do. You can't start something that you can't finish.
Yeah.
So, it's horse time.
I think, we all need that. I know we're all so busy, so I know I've had a job change during this whole pandemic thing, and it's been such a good thing because I can come out and talk to people like you and stop and smell the roses along the way and get to learn about horses. But I love that.
Yeah.
So I know it's not just the 2 of you working hard,
No.
even though I know you work hard, but you have a volunteer staff here. And how big is the volunteer staff?
We have about, I want to say
25 or more.
20,
Wow.
25 or more.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work. And you have different feedings, right? You got to walk the horses,
they're
right?
fed 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So we have people come and they'll do the morning feed. Lunchtime is normally there's people here like today, and then they have an evening feed. And I have senior volunteers that Jackie, of which is one, that I like to have on each shift, because some people just don't know anything about horses, and that's not their fault. It can put them in danger, and then the horse gets to the blame, typically. So I do like to have senior volunteers on every shift, even if I'm here, because I just cannot field everything from new volunteers that don't really know anything about horses. It's just impossible.
Yeah, I'm sure you get people too, like me. Oh, I love horses. I would love to work with horses, but I never have before.
Yeah, and it's fine. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. But it does take management, because we can't just let someone go in to a horse's stall or out in the paddock who don't know what they're doing, because your body language says everything. And they can, if you're scared, they know you're scared. Even they can hear your heartbeat from quite a ways away.
Oh, fun.
So if your heart's racing a little bit or you're a little anxious, they know.
Unfortunately, Julia had to leave us. I guess that's part of being on a working farm with horses to tend to and such. So Jackie and I moved our conversation from the horse stalls, where I'm sure you heard the horses snorting in the background, and we moved outside to underneath the redwood trees near the hay barn. And here you'll hear some ambient noise, you'll hear some birds, wind, and there is a helicopter overhead, so you'll probably hear that as well. But here I talked to Jackie about how you can help and what you can do. And they have some amazing upcoming events happening. So stay tuned and check those out. And I will also post that information on the show notes. So enjoy. We are back here at Canham Farm, Horse Rescue and Rehabilitation Center, and we did lose Julia. She had to go work with some horses. And so I'm going to continue our conversation here with Jackie Foley. So we're going to talk a little bit about ways to help and some upcoming events and anything else you want to talk about, Jackie.
Great. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great. So a fundraiser that we had started a little while back when we were doing improvements to our barn was help spruce up their stalls and we'll spruce up your walls. What that is about is we're painting the interior of the barn and we're putting new mats in the barn. And so people were making a donation, then they would be given a painting that we're making, and the horses are actually doing the paintings.
So the horses are painting.
Yes.
We're going to have to describe that
Yes.
process a little bit, I think.
Yes, I get a lot. Are the horses holding a paintbrush in their
Yeah.
mouth? No, that's not. We use a canvas, and we have the different size canvases we're using, and we use water-based acrylic paint, and we apply the paint just randomly in the different areas, just lines or dots or just random spots on the canvas. And then we lay cellophane over that, and then we put the grain on top of that. So then the horses, of course, want the grain. And it's funny what we've noticed, they all have their own techniques. Some are very lippy, and they're pushing the grain out with their lips. Some are using their tongue. And
It leaves all different patterns
it
on
does.
each.
Yeah, so when they're done eating the grain, and it's actually amazing, it paints and pushes the paint everywhere on the canvas. Mm-hmm. When we take the cellophane off, it's something new every time. So everyone is very unique, and even, again, their techniques are all very different. Some of them keep precision lines, and the paint lines are real definite.
Kind of horizontal going across.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so anyway, they all come out pretty cool and all very different. We have those available for individuals to purchase, and everything's on our website as far as that goes.
Okay.
But a lot of that fundraising and those funds are going to our barn, and that's a big improvement project we have going on right now.
Oh, great.
So, yeah.
So, taking care of the stalls and getting new mats is very important. So,
Yeah.
what other ways can people help besides getting some beautiful horse artwork on their walls?
Yeah.
Which I have one. I'm really happy. I have one from Lola. So,
That's right, yeah. Yeah, and they all have their names on the back
Yeah.
of each one they're doing. And
Sorry for the helicopter, folks.
yes.
So we are sitting outside. All right, so sorry, we got briefly interrupted by a loud helicopter. One of the risks of doing this outside.
Yeah. Different ways that you can help is going directly to the website, and we have a site that you can just make general donations as well to our rescue. And again, where those funds go is our everyday expenses, from the farrier to the veterinarian to the medications, the grains, bales of hay and bales of grass. Bales of hay used to be low 20s, 25, and now they're up to $30 for a bale of hay. Wow. So things like everything else has gone up, so the expenses are definitely there. Yeah. But corporate match donations, that's another way. If you're company or a corporation that you're affiliated with, they'll go through different programs and do corporate matches to do donations from a corporate perspective.
They usually double or will match,
Yeah, they'll match. Somebody makes a donation, your company will match it. So there's a lot of that going on.
That's great.
So we've been involved in that, very fortunate. So that's really a nice thing.
And before we continue, so your website, just so we can reiterate it again, is canhamfarm.com?
Canhamfarm.com.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it has everything there. And that speaks to everything with sponsoring a horse. That's another thing that it'll speak to, sponsoring a horse virtually. Just a monthly fee for that.
Oh, nice.
To support a horse.
Okay.
So we call it sponsoring a horse, and that helps with the expenses. And again, you can meet the horses on the website. We have 9 horses here. I think maybe we mentioned that earlier.
Yep.
And so that's a way to do it. Go directly. All the information's on the website and different ways to support us.
Yeah. I also read on your website, too, that you offer, and Julia may have mentioned this before she left, too, equine therapy as well. You do some of that here as well?
We actually have a program for humans. It's helping humans as far as we have some young adults or some children with special needs that will come up and do grooming and just be with the horses, get to know the horses, We have one or two that are maybe doing a little groundwork and lunging with one or two of the horses. So we do a little bit of that. We have, I think, just a couple people here that are willing to be with the children and schedule different. They come, I don't know, once a week, I believe it is, or twice a month.
Oh, wow.
And have the kids here and just be around the horses. There's no riding the horses, so it's no real riding therapy because our focus is rescue and rehab. But we do have them come up and be with a volunteer and have a good time. And it's great for them. The horses enjoy it, so they love anybody to be around and with them. So
it's just calming to be up here and to be in this environment, I think. So
it is, and we get a lot back from the horses, and I think anybody does. I don't care who you are. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel it just coming up here. It's nice to, sit here and under the redwoods and talk about horses and see them go by and getting their lunch right now.
Yes, they're eating.
So you might hear some horse whinnying.
Yeah.
But you mentioned volunteers too. Hopefully I'm not throwing you off track on topic here, but I thought we'd talk a little bit about volunteering. That's a great way to help for people as well and help you. So is there anything specific you require of volunteers? How can they reach out to you and all that stuff?
I'm glad you mentioned that. So just, again, go to our website and there'll be a volunteer tab and fill out an application. So we encourage you to do that, the first step. Once we receive it, we'll review it, we'll get in touch with you, and that will be one of our volunteers that's oversees that area in managing and supporting the volunteers. And there'll be an orientation. So we'll invite you up for an orientation. There'll be a few at a time, and so you can get to know what we do here, why we do it, the horses, and that sort of thing. And then if it's something that interests you, then it would come down to the availability of when making sure that our schedules match. So if we have a shift or a spot, there's spots where we clean every day in the mornings into early afternoon. There's feeding, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think we may have mentioned earlier, but the different shifts. So those are activities that the volunteers will do. Various projects around here. We have a projects team that focuses on big projects and things that need to be done. So
like the painting. And
painting and the fencing and the whatever needs to be repaired or what have you. We do have an individual too that has donated his time as a construction. He comes up and does a lot of the heavy work.
And, you probably need quite a bit of that around here with the fencing and gates and whatnot.
So he's kind enough to do that. So,
nice.
So there's various different jobs and fun things to do, and grooming the horses when we're done with cleaning. We'll groom the horses or whatever, do some groundwork or get them out in the arena. We get every horse out every day, just about every horse, but every day most of the horses get into the arena and get their exercise, so they enjoy that. Is
there an age limit for people? Do they have to be 18 or older, or
if it's a teenager? We do have teenagers that have an adult with them. We'll have a father and a daughter, or we've had both, and mothers and daughters that have come up, and both working together. So if they're a younger age, teenage, then that's where I think it breaks off there. Yeah, it would have to be almost an adult age to be here by yourself. But older teenager, and I think it depends on the individual too. Yeah. It can be up here by themselves, but they get a lot of guidance with the other volunteers and that sort of thing. So we're flexible. We would talk to you and see what your experience is. Yeah. That has something to do with it as well.
Oh. Do you take people without any horse experience whatsoever to help out? Okay.
We do. So we have all different levels of people up here, and I will say that, somebody that has been around horses for many years, it's amazing how much I've learned here. Yeah. There's a lot of things that I didn't know. Yeah. So I'm amazed by that, and I learn something, every time I come up here, there's something new, or a horse does something different, or what have you. So they've taught me a lot. And of course, Julia, our founder, has taught me quite a bit. But so we all have different levels, different skill sets, and you don't have to have experience coming up here. So that's why we encourage to fill out the application, encourage people to do that.
Are there any other ways that you can think of people can help? You do have an online store that is updated frequently, I think, or will be with new items at some point.
There are. We've had T-shirts, and now we have hats. We have some new logoed hats that are pretty cool.
They are. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing one. So the lightweight embroidered hats that we have on the website, and the T-shirts, and we'll have various different types of T-shirts, and some that are horse-oriented, some we're getting some right now that are being created that are just about animals and being kind in general, so that sort of thing. And we're getting those made for, I could segment right into the Scotts Valley Art and Wine Festival.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of these items to have at the Scotts Valley Art and Wine Fest. We're going to have a booth there as a nonprofit, both days, August 20th and 21st, here in Scotts Valley at Sky Park. Pretty big event.
Yeah,
We're going to have some fun
it's pretty
things.
popular.
Yeah, it is. We'll have some things for the kids. We'll have raffles, so we'll have raffles that are kid-oriented and adult-oriented, but have a fun raffle going on.
Nice.
And
the artwork from the horses.
Yes, and of course the paintings will be there. Not only can you get them, you can purchase them on our website, but they will be for sale and displayed in our booth at the Art and Wine Festival. So, yeah,
Fun.
that'll be fun. So we'll have a lot going on there. So it'll be a fun festival. So I hope a lot of your listeners, maybe local people, will come down. Maybe not so local, but people come from all over.
Yeah, people come from San Francisco, I know, to go to the Scotts Valley Art and Wine, Art and Wine Festival. So, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to get away and get up in the mountains, except when they're doing surveys with a helicopter.
Surveys apparently of the farm here. They're surveying the farm right now.
Sorry, folks. Yeah.
Some other events that we have going on in addition to the Art and Wine Festival is a plein air art event where we're going to have a artist instructor come up, and the date that we're targeting is October 1st here at the farm. We're going to have various artists come up and have a gal that teaches art assist with how to draw a horse and just in the various mediums. So it could be anybody, watercolors, pastels, photography, oils, come up. And there's lots of things to choose from to choose as your subject. So not only the horses, but the redwoods, the barn, the landscape, the view going down the valley, the mountains, so there's a lot of different things to choose from. So that's going to be a great day. So
be fun. That starts, I think, at 4:00? You said earlier when we were talking, 4 to sunset.
Yeah, 4 to about sunset.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be evening. It'll be good light, but it's a beautiful sunset from here. Yeah, so that's going to be a great event. Again, October 1st is the date we're targeting.
I'll put a link on the show notes for that as well.
Yeah,
and I think you'll have a link on your website for that.
We will.
Yeah.
We'll have reference to all that. We have an events section.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, that will definitely have that listed. And also, we were invited to participate and be a part of John Muir Law's, it's an art and conservation series on August 18th. This is something that I think many people know him as an author and illustrator, naturalist, and he supports a lot of wildlife endeavors and rescues and things such as our rescue. And he's going to highlight us, and I provided some photos of some of our horses, and he's going to do a demonstration of how to draw a horse. And so it's an art class online. Yeah, so people can zoom in, dial in, and interact as far as John showing how to do that. So we're excited. All the volunteers want to sign City Hall and at least observe or what have you. So it's going to be very interesting. And
good, and you'll have Julia and yourself on there too to answer any questions people have. And
but it's going to be something very unique and cool. Yeah, so we look forward to more of the artists and that type of event coming up here to our farm. And very much look forward to having more of that going on. So you mentioned possibly photographers maybe coming up who want to, seems like artists and photographers, I know every time I mention horses or that I'm speaking with you, they're always like, I've always wanted to photograph horses close up. So they can contact me directly or it will get to me through the website, and then it'll funnel to me, and I'd be happy to get those conversations going. And that's how we've made all of these your podcast today and how we made these things happen.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we should mention about Canham Farm and the horses? I know Julia covered a lot about how horses come to here and the care, and you did discuss you both shared some success stories or things that inspired you, but is there anything else? That
I guess, in finally just saying that our goal here is to rescue the horses that really need help. There's horses that people do ask that if we can take the horses, or they approach Julia and the rescue, and for whatever reason they no longer can support or the horse or whatever the scenario is. But we are specifically looking forward to help the horses that really need the help, and that's our focus. And we have to remember, if you go onto our website, there are horses available for adoption right now. So there's horses that are ready. We have some that are still, a lot of them are still in progress.
Okay.
And sometimes it takes a while to get these horses ready and rehabbed and that sort of thing. But if you go to the website, you'll see who's available. And we have to remember, although it's sad if they go, but
Yeah,
that's
you get
why
attached
we're
to
here.
them. Yeah.
So that's why we're here. That's what it's about. And
So if people see a neglected horse somewhere or abused horse, they should call you. And
Yeah.
I know space is limited, and I'm sure, can you direct people to another place to get help with that, so the horse isn't in that situation anymore?
there's a possibility
Yeah.
of that, and
Yeah.
it would depend on the situation. And if they reached out on the website, it'll go. Most of those communications go directly to the founder, Julia,
Okay.
and then she would decide from there what's the best, or maybe it is a referral. She knows because she's very well connected in this community and outside of, maybe the horse should be here or spend the rest of its life at a particular place where the horses do just spend maybe the little bit left, the years they have left in their life, doing that out to pasture, where they specifically have these facilities for that, versus like a rehab and trying to be adopted out. What we're doing here, it may be a little different. So again, it just
Gotcha.
depends on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Gosh, I thank you so much for your time and coming up for these interviews and speaking with both you and Julia. Had to run and work with some horses, but it was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for all you do for the horses.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. And
Yeah. Well, that concludes our show today. And again, I am Marcia Sivek, and this is BeProvided Conservation Radio. And thank you all for listening. And please go check out canhamfarm.com and find out more information about this wonderful horse rescue and rehabilitation center located in Scotts Valley, California. I would also like to mention that the show notes will include some links as well, and some photos of the horses, or some of the horses we talked about today, so you can go check that out as well. And that will be at www.beprovided.com. And also, the music was provided by Andy Ellison, and the song is Wild Bronco. And I thought it was a perfect fit. So thanks, everyone. Until next time, stay safe and stay healthy.